Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Survive to Thrive via ISO Nation. Today, I am welcomed by two fantastic guests. I've got Andrew Lavapierre from Action Coach. He's going to be talking about the importance of business planning today. And I'm going to be talking with Nicola Roke from Danton HR, and she's going to be talking about hybrid working and practical solutions to enable organizations to embrace the new normal. So, without further ado, because I know the last time we spoke to Nicola's colleague Helen around the remote working and the hybrid working. Nicola's going to take a slightly different slant on it, Nicola. So just tell us a little bit about why you decided to do the session today and a run through of the kind of things we're going to talk about.
Yeah, so I guess hybrid working is a term that is starting to be used more and more. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity just to really kind of discuss what hybrid working is and what it really means for individual businesses. For me, one size never fits all. So understanding what opportunities there are out there, learning best practice and kind of thinking about what other businesses are doing, but that, then bringing it back to your own business and thinking, right, how can this work to best effect in the context of our own organisation? So hybrid working, something that is being talked about more and more. Hybrid working in a kind of short to medium term context, and then also what that means, what implications there are longer term as well. So pre-COVID, we probably had about 5% of people working from home. That obviously changed massively with lockdown, and suddenly everybody went to either kind of totally remote working, or some people continued to work in the office but on a very, very scaled back basis. So lots and lots, far fewer people working in the office. So social distancing, for example, was able to be maintained. People buying equipment such as, Nick, the COVID safe UK equipment, that therefore that was enabling them to get back into the office. But once businesses get kind of an amber to green light to then start to think about going back in a more permanent way, what does that more permanent way look like within the new context? What does that look like in terms of the new normal? So businesses considering what hybrid means for them. What does that mean for them on a practical level going back into the summer now? So many of our businesses, many of our clients, they already have a degree of people working within the office and some working remotely. Actually, some of our clients, they're all completely remote at the moment. So what does that transition on a practical level really look like, getting from this complete kind of 100% remote working arrangement, actually where technology is resolved, communications resolved, businesses are using Teams, they're using Zoom, they're using lots and lots of different ways to communicate and to work very effectively. There's this desire to get back to the office to a greater or lesser degree from various individuals. But what does that actually mean on a practical level in terms of making sure that that business operation doesn't get affected as we go through the transition back into the workplace?
Love it. I love it. And you know what? It's bizarre because the stat you mentioned before around how many people, what was that stat, Nicola? Was it 5%?
5%.
5% compared to what will now be a whole shift. It could almost go the total opposite way. In terms of what have you seen from your clients? How have you seen that change, the shift from the whole 5% to where we are right now?
So the key things that we've seen some people who, from a well-being perspective, have embraced lone working from home. They appreciate not having to do the journey. They appreciate not having to spend cost on fuel. They're absolutely fine working in isolation at home. They get what they need out of communicating virtually. They don't need all these people around us. And then we have other people who are itching to get back to the office. They miss having the face-to-face. So we've got businesses talking with us who have employees from both different camps, and actually people at some point in between as well. So we've got people that want to go back to the office but they don't want to go back on a full-time basis. We've got people that would quite happily go back on a full-time basis, but interestingly not that many want to go back on a full-time basis. And I did see a poll, I should have brought it actually. I did see a poll on LinkedIn over the last couple of weeks where it was, state your emoji, whichever emoji it was, for how much, you wanted to get back to the office, whether it was full remote, partial working back in the office, or full back in the office. And something like 65-70% of people wanted either full-time remote working through to kind of 2 to 3 days working from home. So what that suggests to us is from an employee retention perspective, from a well-being perspective, from a from that turnover perspective, actually organisations, if they want to attract and retain the best people, then they have to be listening to what their people are saying, and they have to think about what that new normal looks like in the context of business outcomes, business performance, absolutely, but you don't get that without the people behind you. So it's thinking on a practical level about how do we get a certain number of people back? Who do we decide? Do we actually run some sort of listening exercise, and do we get people back into the office in priority order, based on roles and necessity, but also based on who's itching to get back, who would rather not come back because they've got caring responsibilities, they're concerned about their own health, they're travelling further distances. So thinking on a practical level around risk assessments, the health and safety side, thinking about the logistics of who's going to go back first, what that means from a technology perspective, what that means from a comms and an IT perspective as well. All of those things to think about are really, really important. Those are just kind of that's an interim arrangement, isn't it? That's not even our permanent new normal. So businesses, fast forward, will even start having to think about what their new normal longer term looks like, what their people strategy longer term looks like, whether hybrid working, either from an individual or from a team level, is actually going to form part of their flexible working proposition for their employees much longer term. So there's a whole host of things that businesses need to be thinking about, and they don't need to rush and make decisions on any of this stuff just yet. It's really helpful to have it on the radar. It's really helpful to start speaking with teams about it, speaking with managers about it, and really understand from a practical level and also from a well-being level and an engagement level with their people, what that means in terms of in terms of a project over the next few weeks into months.
Thank you, Nicola. And you're right. The big thing there is they don't have to do it now. It's something they need to be thinking about. The strand that I took from there is this is really going to be difficult because not one cap fits every size, if that makes sense. Because there are going to be elements of the business that want to stay working from home. There are going to be elements that want to have more of a home versus office. There are going to be elements that want more office. And I think it depends largely on a number of things. There's culture, historic culture. There's sector, because some sectors like to vibe off each other and feel the energy off each other. And I think it just comes down to personal preference. And I also think now that from a recruitment perspective, the motivations of candidates have changed historically, and organisations, as opposed to saying, listen, this is what we do here, they have to be aware of, if they want to attract or retain the best talent, they need to flex. So the big thing you talked about there is consultation, and I think that's probably one of the big takeaways organisations can have a plan on when's the end game, which is your longer term new working processes. What you're going to do now as we navigate the return to work roadmap, and how do we consult? Because you've probably never, consultation probably happens at a board level or then a line manager level. You probably don't get many opportunities in an organization where you have that level of consultation, but I think from this perspective, I think we definitely need it, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we generally find is businesses will run you know, they'll run kind of engagement surveys maybe on a 6-monthly or an annual basis. They might have suggestion boxes, they might have employee forums whereby they are, you know, meeting monthly and they're sharing ideas and they're giving an opportunity, you know, they're giving each employee an opportunity to have a say on things. But actually this really hits home, doesn't it? This is something that kind of cuts across professional life and actually also cuts across personal life as well. So even more really, it's important to really kind of gauge the views of people.
Thank you. So say that again, sorry.
Not make assumptions, just not, you know, not make assumptions that, you know, one size doesn't fit all.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway on that, the hybrid working. I think what we need to do is make sure that we glean the opinions of your staff. Now, listen, obviously the people that lead and run their organisations have got to make the final say. But I think you'd be really foolish and you'd be extremely myopic if you weren't willing to take into consideration. You know, we talk about employee engagement, we talk about building strong employee value propositions, we talk about building strong employer brands. If you're not listening to your people, you're not listening to the voice of the people in your organization, then you're going to inhibit that level of engagement and how productive you could be. Because actually, this is a great opportunity now to really get some extra buy-in from your team by them actually understanding that you care and you listen to what they want. So that would be my takeaway. Is there any? And I think that'll be a great thing, because we've got the future, we've got now, and in order to establish how we do find our way there safely and knowing that everyone's been consulted, is to have that consultation process. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, there are also, you know, thinking about the practical side again and the legal side. If we're going to have permanent home working arrangements, if we're going to have permanent hybrid arrangements, we just need to think about the contractual implications of that as well. And again, one size doesn't fit all. It's about treating each one individually, but we do need to think about policies, you know, agile working policies. You know, we need to think about those arrangements in the context both of health and safety and also from an employment law perspective, a contractual perspective as well.
Lovely, Nicola. And in terms of if people want to speak with you about that, how do they get in touch with you to kind of, because I know you've got lots of really cool resources that you give for free, and how do people reach out to you and find out a little bit more about how you can help them get their business hybrid working safe, secure and compliant?
Yeah, so either connect on LinkedIn or our website dantonhr.com, and you can personally message me through there.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nicola.